What's going on, everybody? Thanks for watching again. Today we're driving a 1978 Ferrari 308. So I figured this would be a good follow-up to the video I did a couple months ago with the 3.5 liter 308. So that one had a bigger, larger displacement motor. But John Asselta, the owner of this car, he lives in Colorado, and he, high altitude, the car was carbureted originally, and he was trying to get more drivability out of it. So basically he ended up converting it to electronic fuel injection, and he has throttle bodies. It kind of emulates a carbureted setup, but it's it's quite a bit better. So this car makes good power. I think that he dynoed it around 250 crank horsepower or something like that, and around maybe 260, 270 foot-pounds of torque. So definitely a decent amount of power there, and it's the torque that really makes it kind of feel punchy. So
when I first bought the car about 20 years ago, as you know, Denver is a mile high. I live at about another 2,000 feet above that, and it was very difficult to tune the car, to get it to respond to altitude changes, was the main reason. But the carburetors were a pain. The Webers always vapor locked on a hot start, fuel sloshing around the corners, and starvation, and the economy was bad. Fuel economy was bad. And never would pass emissions. Everything is solved, and I did not go the way of Ferrari, which was to stick a manifold in a plenum. That would have been the easy way out. I wanted to complement the original Webers with the 8 individual throttle openings. So basically every cylinder has its own path in and out through the header, which was beautiful, really. I picked up some extra torque, picked up some horsepower, and it's never run cleaner. Yeah, I did have a tiny bit of outside help from the vendors, but this was pretty much all on my own. I really didn't know too much about what I was doing. I didn't know anything about modern cars and how sensors worked. Now I do. Now I know about what every sensor does, and I know more about how modern cars work based on all this. And like I say, hats off to Holley. They just simplified everything. So it makes for a very nice bulletproof, foolproof setup. It'll never fail. There's no moving parts. Okay. And back when I originally got the car, we converted this over to a dual snorkel intake on the driver's side to take in more air, which helped out tremendously. And then when it came time to mount the ECU, this was all stock factory from Holley. The wiring harness was made for a new Ford truck, and it fit beautifully. I had problems getting my tachometer to work. That's why there's a tach amplifier and the tach splitter to get me the right signal. So this whole board really controls my ignition and the tach for the coils. And the beauty of the Holley system is every single sensor is calibrated to the unit. So it's a no-brainer. It fit really nice. Right out of the box. Basically, you put in a couple parameters, you stick the ECU in learn mode, and it will automatically populate the fuel map table based on feedback from the sensors, mainly the oxygen sensor. And then along with that process, I had to put in a high pressure fuel pump system. Holley's fuel map table, which is manifold pressure versus RPM versus how much fuel per this, basically a 3D table. And this table will automatically get populated by the feedback from here when it's in learn mode. These numbers and all these cells will get repopulated, reevaluated, repopulated, reevaluated, thought about all by the computer in the car. And it's just a beautiful system, and she'll always pass emissions. It's great. Great system.
Oh, and some of the other custom touches, like he has these really cool, normally these switches on a 308 for the defrost and all that stuff are these black plastic switches that kind of tend to crack over time and they don't look that great. And so John actually ended up engineering these custom little machined knobs for the controls, and then he also did these little surrounds for the controls as well, which is pretty awesome. So it's largely stock on the inside except for the shift knob and these custom buttons here. Suspension is basically stock. There's a larger front air dam. The rear bumper is custom. It doesn't have the original 14-inch wheels anymore. It actually has the 16-inch quattro valve wheels. So it's got a really pretty good stance, but it looks very period correct, I would say. So let's take over drive and see what it's like. Oh yeah, it sounds really good. Feels really good. It revs very cleanly and it makes really good power. I'm just keeping it in second gear. I mean, taking it up to like about 7,000 RPM. It's really the motor that makes this car. The engine, like I said, sounds really good. It's got this nice throaty intake roar, and then the exhaust system itself. Yeah, so I would say overall, the throttle bodies and the electronic fuel injection combination is definitely a winner for sure. This car is so physical to drive. So the throttle bodies give you more power and drivability, and you still get the nice sound of or similar sound to like a Weber downdraft setup, which is what this thing would have had originally. So you still get good sound, but better performance. So it's still very like period correct feeling, but more performance. So this car is very healthy feeling. It's got a good strong mid-range, but it also revs all the way to I mean, you can 7,000 is about as high as you need to take it basically. It's red lines at 7,800 RPM, but. So typical 308, steering is very heavy at parking lot speeds. Once you get some speed going, it lightens up, but it still has, it's heavy, but pretty good feedback. Not quite as good as like an old 911 from the same era. Yeah, this is a really nice handling car. Definitely, it's not a car that you can you're not going to be sliding this thing around. It's happier if it's just kind of sticking to the road. The steering kind of gets in the way because it's pretty heavy. It kind of doesn't have like this flickability that the later Ferraris have with power steering. So the suspension on this car, he has original shock and spring setup, but it's been refreshed basically, so it's not all. Sometimes on these old Ferraris, the shocks can actually get seized up, and so these shocks function great. And he has urethane bushings throughout the whole thing as well, which definitely sharpen up the chassis. This car is made for these roads. It's incredible. It's small. It's pretty nimble. The heavy steering aside, that kind of, you got to muscle it around. And like I said, the sound is definitely the high point of this thing for sure. I mean, you got to love an old 308 like this. Amazing styling. I think black is a great color for it. It's so vintage feeling. absolute blast to drive.